Section 8. Letting in the Jungle, Part 2. Meantime, Mowgli was putting the miles behind him, 9 to the hour, swinging on, delighted to find himself so fit after all his cramped months among man. The one idea in his head was to get Messua and her husband out of the trap, whatever it was, for he had a natural mistrust of traps. Later on, he promised himself, he would pay his debts to the village at large. It was at twilight when he saw the well-remembered grazing grounds, and the dak tree where Grey Brother had waited for him on the morning that he killed Shere Khan. Angry as he was at the whole breed and community of man, something jumped up in his throat and made him catch his breath when he looked at the village roofs. He noticed that everyone had come in from the fields unusually early, and that, instead of getting to their evening cooking, they gathered in a crowd around the village tree, and chattered and shouted. "Man must always be making traps for man, or they are not content," said Mowgli. "Last night it was Mowgli, but that night seems many rains ago. Tonight it is Messua and her man. Tomorrow, and for many nights after, it will be Mowgli's turn again." He crept outside the wall till he came to Messua's hut, and looked through the window into the room. There lay Messua, gagged and bound hand and foot, breathing hard and groaning. Her husband was tied to the gaily painted bedstead. The door of the hut that opened into the street was shut fast, and 3 or 4 people were sitting with their backs to it. Mowgli knew the manners and customs of the villagers very fairly. He argued that so long as they could eat and talk and smoke, they would not do anything else, but as soon as they had fed, they would begin to be dangerous. Buldeo would be coming in before long, and if his escort had done its duty, Buldeo would have a very interesting tale to tell. So he went in through the window, and, stooping over the man and the woman, got their thongs, pulling out the gags, and looked around the hut for some milk. Messua was half wild with pain and fear. She had been beaten and stoned all the morning, and Mowgli put his hand over her mouth just in time to stop a scream. Her husband was only bewildered and angry, and sat picking dust and things out of his torn beard. I knew he would come," Messua sobbed at last. "Now do I know that he is my son," and she hugged Mowgli to her heart. Up to that time Mowgli had been perfectly steady, but now he began to tremble all over, and that surprised him immensely. "Why are these tongs? Why have they tied thee?" he asked after a pause. "To be put to death for making a son of thee. What else?" said the man suddenly. "Look, I bleed." Messua said nothing, but it was at her wounds that Mowgli looked, and they heard him grit his teeth when he saw the blood. "Whose work is this?" said he. "There's a price to pay." "The work of all the village. I was too rich. I had too many cattle. Therefore she and I are witches, because we gave thee shelter." "I do not understand. Let Messua tell the tale." "I gave thee milk, Nathoo, dost thou remember?" Messua said timidly. "Because thou wast my son, whom the tiger took, and because I loved thee very dearly. They said that I was thy mother, the mother of a devil, and therefore worthy of death." "And what is a devil?" said Mowgli. "Death I have seen." The man looked up gloomily, but Messua laughed. "See," she said to her husband, "I knew. I said that he was no sorcerer. He's my son. My son." "Son or sorcerer, what good will that do us?" the man answered. "We be as dead already." "Yonder is the road to the Jungle." Mowgli pointed through the window. "Your hands and feet are free. Go now." "We do not know the Jungle, my son, as thou knowest," Messua began. "I do not think that I could walk far." "And the men and women would be upon our backs and drag us here again," said the husband. "H'm," said Mowgli, and he tickled the palm of his hand with the tip of his skinning knife. "I have no wish to do harm to any one of this village yet. But I do not think they will stay thee. In a little while they will have much else to think upon. Ah!" He lifted his head and listened to the shouting and trampling outside. "So they have let Buldeo come home at last." "He was sent out this morning to kill thee," Messua cried. "Didst thou meet him?" "Yes, I met him. He has a tale to tell, and while he is telling it there is time to do much. But first I will learn what they mean. Think where you would go and tell me when I come back." He bounded through the window and ran along again outside the wall of the village, till he came within earshot of the crowd round the peepul tree. Buldeo was lying on the ground, coughing and groaning, and everyone was asking him questions. His hair had fallen about his shoulders, his hands and legs were skinned from climbing up trees, and he could hardly speak. But he felt the importance of his position keenly. From time to time he said something about devils and singing devils and magic enchantment, just to give the crowd a taste of what was coming. Then he called for water. "Pah!" said Mowgli. "Chatter, chatter, talk, talk. Men are blood brothers of the Bandar log. Now he must wash his mouth with water. Now he must blow smoke, and when all that is done he has still his story to tell. They are very wise people, men. They will leave no one to guard Messua till their ears are stuffed with Buldeo's tales. And I grow as lazy as they." He shook himself and glided back to the hut. Just as he was at the window he felt a touch on his foot. "Mother," he said, for he knew that tongue well, "what dost thou here?" "I heard my children singing through the woods, and I followed the one I loved best. Little Frog, I have a desire to see that woman who gave thee milk," said Mother Wolf, all wet with the dew. "They have bound and mean to kill her. I have cut those ties, and she goes with her man through the Jungle. I also will follow. I am old, but not yet toothless." Mother Wolf reared herself up on end, and looked through the window into the dark of the hut. In a minute she dropped noiselessly, and all she said was, "I gave thee thy first milk, but Bagheera speaks truth. Man goes to man at the last." "Maybe," said Mowgli, with a very unpleasant look on his face. "But tonight I am very far from that trail. Wait here, but do not let her see." "Thou wast never afraid of me, Little Frog," said Mother Wolf, backing into the high grass and blotting herself out as she knew how. "And now," said Mowgli cheerfully, as he swung into the hut again, "they are all sitting round Buldeo, who is saying that which did not happen. When his talk is finished, they say they will assuredly come here with fire and burn you both. And then—" "I have spoken to my man," said Messua. "Khanhiwara is 30 miles from here, but at Khanhiwara we may find the English." "And what pack are they?" said Mowgli. "I do not know. They be white, and it is said that they govern all the land, and do not suffer people to burn or beat each other without witnesses. If we can get thither tonight, we live, otherwise we die." "Live, then. No man passes the gates tonight. But what does he do?" Messua's husband was on his hands and knees, digging up the earth in one corner of the hut. "It is his little money," said Messua. "We can take nothing else." "Ah, yes, the stuff that passes from hand to hand and never grows warmer. Do they need it outside this place also?" said Mowgli. The man stared angrily. "He is a fool, and no devil," he muttered. "With the money I can buy a horse. We are too bruised to walk far, and the village will follow us in an hour." "I say they will not follow till I choose. But a horse is well thought of, for Messua is tired." Her husband stood up and knotted the last of the rupees into his waistcloth. Mowgli helped Messua through the window, and the cool night air revived her, but the jungle in the starlight looked very dark and terrible. "Ye know the trail to Khanhiwara?" Mowgli whispered. They nodded. "Good. Remember now not to be afraid. And there's no need to go quickly. Only there may be some small singing in the jungle behind you and before. Think you we would have risked a night in the jungle through anything less than the fear of burning? It is better to be killed by beasts than by men," said Messua's husband. But Messua looked at Mowgli and smiled. "I say," Mowgli went on, just as though he were Baloo repeating an old jungle law for the 100th time to a foolish cub, "I say that not a tooth in the jungle is bared against you. Not a foot in the jungle is lifted against you. Neither man nor beast shall stay you till you come within eyeshot of Khanhiwara. There will be a watch about you." He turned quickly to Messua, saying, "He does not believe, but thou wilt believe?" "Aye, surely, my son. Man, ghost, or wolf of the jungle, I believe." "He will be afraid when he hears my people singing. Thou wilt know and understand. Go now, and slowly, for there is no need of any haste. The gates are shut." Messua flung herself sobbing at Mowgli's feet, but he lifted her very quickly with a shiver. Then she hung about his neck and called him every name of blessing she could think of. But her husband looked enviously across his fields and said, "If we reach Khanhiwara, and I get the ear of the English, I will bring such a lawsuit against the Brahmin and old Buldeo and the others as shall eat the village to the bone. They shall pay me twice over for my crops untilled and my buffaloes unfed. I will have a great justice." Mowgli laughed. "I do not know what justice is, but come next rains, and see what is left." They went off toward the jungle, and Mother Wolf leaped from her place of hiding. "Follow," said Mowgli, "and look to it that all the jungle knows these two are safe. Give tongue a little. I would call Bagheera." The long, low howl rose and fell, and Mowgli saw Messua's husband flinch and turn, half-minded to run back to the hut. "Go on," Mowgli called cheerfully. "I said there might be singing. That call will follow up to Khanhiwara. It is Favour of the Jungle." Messua urged her husband forward, and the darkness shut down on them and Mother Wolf as Bagheera rose up almost under Mowgli's feet, trembling with the light of the night that drives the Jungle people wild. "I am ashamed of thy brethren," he said, purring. "What? Did they not sing sweetly to Buldeo?" said Mowgli. "Too well, too well. They made even me forget my pride, and, by the broken lock that freed me, I went singing through the jungle as though I were out wooing in the spring. Didst thou not hear us? I had other game afoot. Ask Buldeo if he liked the song. But where are the 4? I do not wish one of the Man Pack to leave the gates tonight." "What need of the 4, then?" said Bagheera, shifting from foot to foot, his eyes ablaze and purring louder than ever. "I can hold them, little brother. Is it killing at last?" "The singing and the sight of the man climbing up the trees have made me very ready. Who is Man that we should care for him? The naked brown digger, the hairless and toothless, the eater of the earth. I have followed him all day. At noon, in the white sunlight, I herded him as the wolves herd buck. I am Bagheera. Bagheera, Bagheera. As I dance with my shadow, so danced I with those men. Look!" The great panther leaped as a kitten leaps at a dead leaf whirling overhead, struck left and right into the empty air that sang under the strokes, and landed noiselessly, and leapt again and again, while the half-purr, half-growl gathered head as steam rumbles in a boiler. "I am Bagheera, in the jungle, in the night, and my strength is in me. Who shall stay my stroke? Man cub, with one blow of my paw I could beat thy head flat as a dead frog in the summer." "Strike, then," said Mowgli, in the dialect of the village, not the talk of the jungle, and the human words brought Bagheera to a full stop, flung back on haunches that quivered under him, his head just at the level of Mowgli's. Once more Mowgli stared as he had stared at the rebellious cubs, full into the beryl-green eyes till the red glare behind their green went out like the light of a lighthouse shut off 20 miles across the sea, till the eyes dropped, and the big head with them, dropped lower and lower, and the red rasp of a tongue grated on Mowgli's instep. "Brother, brother, brother," the boy whispered, stroking steadily and lightly from the neck along the heaving back. "Be still, be still. It is the fault of the night, and no fault of thine." "It was the smells of the night," said Bagheera penitently. "This air cries aloud to me, but how dost thou know?" "Of course the air round an Indian village is full of all kinds of smells, and to any creature who does nearly all his thinking through his nose, smells are as maddening as music and drugs are to human beings." Mowgli gentled the panther for a few minutes longer, and he lay down like a cat before a fire, his paws tucked under his breast, and his eyes half shut. "Thou art of the jungle, and not of the jungle," he said at last, "and I am only a black panther. But I love thee, little brother." "They are very long at their talk under the tree," Mowgli said, without noticing the last sentence. "Buldeo must have told many tales. They should come soon to drag the woman and her man out of the trap and put them into the Red Flower. They will find that trap sprung. Ha ha!" "Nay, listen," said Bagheera. "The fever is out of my blood now. Let them find me there. Few would leave their houses after meeting me. It is not the first time I have been in a cage, and I do not think they will tie me with cords." "Be wise, then," said Mowgli, laughing, for he was beginning to feel as reckless as the panther, who had glided into the hut. "Pah!" Bagheera grunted. "This place is rank with man. But here is just such a bed as they gave me to lie upon in the king's cages at Udipore. Now I lie down." Mowgli heard the strings of the cot crack under the great brute's weight. "By the broken lock that freed me, they will think they have caught big game. Come and sit beside me, little brother. We will give them good hunting together." "No, I have another thought in my stomach. The Man Pack shall not know what share I have in the sport. Make thine own hunt. I do not wish to see them." "Be it so," said Bagheera. "Ah, now they come." The conference under the peepul tree had been growing noisier and noisier at the far end of the village. It broke in wild yells, and the rush up the street of men and women, waving clubs and bamboos and sickles and knives. Buldeo and the Brahmin were at the head of it, but the mob was close at their heels, and they cried, "The witch and the wizard, let us see if hot coins will make them confess. Burn the hut over their heads. We will teach them to shelter wolf devils. Nay, beat them first. Torches, more torches, Buldeo, heat the gun barrels." Here was some little difficulty with the catch of the door. It had been very firmly fastened, but the crowd tore it away bodily, and the light of the torches streamed into the room, where, stretched at full length on the bed, his paws crossed and lightly hung down over one end, black as pit and terrible as a demon, was Bagheera. There was one half-minute of desperate silence, as the front ranks of the crowd clawed and tore their way back from the threshold, and in that minute Bagheera raised his head and yawned, elaborately, carefully, and ostentatiously, as he would yawn when he wished to insult an equal. The fringed lips drew back and up, the red tongue curled, the lower jaw dropped and dropped till you could see half-way down the hot gullet, and the gigantic dog teeth stood clear to the pit of the gums till they rang together, upper and under, with a snick of steel-faced warts shooting home round the edges of a safe. Next instant the street was empty. Bagheera had leaped back through the window and stood at Mowgli's side, while a yelling, screaming torrent scrambled and tumbled over one another in their panic haste to get to their own huts. "They will not stir till day comes," said Bagheera quietly. "And now?" The silence of the afternoon sleep seemed to have overtaken the village, but, as they listened, they could hear the sound of heavy grain boxes being dragged over earthen floors and set down against doors. Bagheera was quite right. The village would not stir till daylight. Mowgli sat still and thought, and his face grew darker and darker. "What have I done?" said Bagheera, at last coming to his feet, fawning. "Nothing but great good. Watch them now till the day. I sleep." Mowgli ran off into the jungle, and dropped like a dead man across a rock, and slept the day round, and the night back again. When he waked, Bagheera was at his side, and there was a newly killed buck at his feet. Bagheera watched curiously while Mowgli went to work with the skinning knife, ate and drank, and turned over with his chin in his hands. End of Section 8.